Give me 47 minutes and you'll let go of your past. What is your past without your proof? The answer just might change how you see yourself and your history forever. Without further ado, folks, if you're ready to live free beyond fear, welcome here. I'm Dr. Shawn, and I believe you do not need years to heal. You only need one real breakthrough. That's why I invented Transcendent psychology, and I test it in the real world, on real people, on my game show, Countdown to Breakthrough, the only game show that heals your soul. Because people might be going through depression. People might be suffering the worst financial downturn of their life. People might be in that messy middle where their entire world is filled with doubt. And those people might be you. And if that's the case, then by asking this question and getting to the bottom of this, might we find an experiential path to freedom? And we're back inside of our own memories. For me, the memory was actually of a dream. It was of a dream I just had, I think last night. But in this particular dream, it was kind of like a nightmare. And if you ever saw the comic book character Spawn, this character Spawn was, it was a big movie in the '90s and had a big cult following. Anyway, the Spawn character was in my dream, and it was as if the entire dream, the sky is completely red, and I'm running with my wife and daughter in this dream. And the feeling that I was getting was that this Spawn character, who was kind of like he was kind of like this Thor, this almost like godlike figure, but like Greek godlike figure that was opening the sky up and was reaching down and was about to grab me and my family, right? So we're running and in the dream, I'm working this out. I'm like, oh, my mind in the dream is racing, and I'm like, oh, of course, Spawn was a propaganda tool of the government, and that's why he's trying to compromise me. You know what I'm saying? It was like I go into the conspiracy deals, and the conspiracy deals are abound right now. If you just go online, so I probably went to sleep to something, and then it was playing in my mind, and then whatever the case is, but the dream. It's one of those dreams that felt real, even though however ridiculous it is, it felt real. You feel me? And so we're running away from the Spawn character, but it's futile. You can't run away from this character that is just kind of everywhere. And so for me, it was like this direct sense of powerlessness, this direct sense of, oh, your enemy's got you again, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like feeling trapped, especially if you have your lady and your baby. Like you definitely want to be feeling the most empowered around there. You ain't trying to be feeling, any kind of way. So in the dream, it was kind of a bothering thing, right? And when I woke up, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what it meant, and I'm trying to figure out what it means for me to be thinking about it still. You feel me? And I'm kind of like, oh man, maybe this is a bad omen, right? I get into you know what I'm saying? We get into the superstition deal. I get into the stuff that I know is irrational, that I know is foolish, but I don't like it. It doesn't matter intellectually how much I can look at something. If the feeling is there, then eventually that feeling does come to manifest itself. That's the way it goes. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't, you might be superstitious or whatever the case is. The superstition ain't real. Your feeling about your fear of that fear will manifest itself in some way. And so I was like, oh, shoot, I got to shake this little feeling. You know what I'm saying? Knowing exactly how ways lead unto ways, I'm like, okay, well, I got to shake this feeling. Because if this feeling creates even a little bit of hesitation in my daily life when no hesitation is necessary, right? That can lead me down to making choices that aren't necessarily in alignment with the choices I would make, where I live in completely by love instead of fear. You feel me? So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and nip this in the bud. But then I got busy with the day. And so I kind of forgot about it until we returned to the lab tonight. And that dream, however fake the dream is, the feeling of powerlessness, I felt that before. I felt that before. Which means what? If I can do something about it now, I can do something about it later. That's why coming back to this idea of what is your past without your proof? The proof that the proof is the memory and the stories. So if we were to strip all of those away, what then does that bad dream mean to me? What then, in fact, does my entire past mean to me? Good or bad? What then? What then would it mean? Somebody let me know you understand what I'm saying. I can break this down a little further if necessary. But the point is that wherever fear pops up, I want to make sure that I'm paying attention. I want to get very, very curious right at that point because there's a lesson in there. There's a lesson in there. Perhaps it is the point that people are saying that we are in World War III right now. I don't know if you heard the news, and perhaps some of that rhetoric is seeping into my subconscious. Either way, I don't actually care how it gets there. I care that once it's there, I'm paying attention. But I'm telling you this, as I go through that exercise, as we went into the meditation lab today, the memory that I called up was the dream from last night. I'm back. I put myself back into the dream with the red sky and Spawn as being this sort of God figure that's kind of looking down and looking to grab people and all this, and me and my family being the only ones around. And I'm running, and I've got the baby in one hand, I got my wife in another hand. I'm sitting here running, and the the ground is like moving up and down. It's all shaky. So, what I'm saying, every time you move, there's like a new crevice, a new gap, a new gulf that you could fall down and into the abyss or lose somebody. So I'm holding on to everybody tight and I'm running and running. And the whole thing feels real, right? It feels like it's a real situation. It's just a dream, but it feels, dreams when they feel real. As I return to that very moment, to those feelings of helplessness, which likely tie into certainly those are feelings I felt before. So wherever they come from, I care about putting awareness on them. I care about putting that attention on them. So I don't want to miss the lesson that they're looking to show me. I go back to the memory and I start seeing, okay, make everything go weightless. So what's that mean? Okay, well, the wife and the child that I was formerly holding on to, they go weightless. They no longer need to run on this shifting terrain because they're levitating off the ground. There's no issue there. Okay, that got me feeling a little better. But then it was like, okay, what about all the shifting land? Like how about, what I'm saying, what you do about that? Oh, that goes weightless too. So the terrain is lifting up into the sky. The baby, my lady, lifting up into the sky. Everyone's going up into the sky. Trees, everything are going up into the sky, into this red sky. But that still didn't quite get it for me. What got it for me was when I saw the Godhead spawn, even the big Godhead that was trying to, manipulate and capture capture me. That even that Godhead dude, he starts oh no, he starts floating up in the air. He starts floating up. He's already in the sky, so he starts floating up out the sky, like I'm saying, floating up beyond the sky. Until eventually the entire dream, like a cartoon, in my mind, all of the colors start floating up into the air. And then I'm standing in this white abyss. And now there's no longer any symbol to make me afraid. Right there now, there's no longer any representative, no longer any bad guy to make me afraid, to make me feel helpless, to make me feel powerless. Like almost like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, like sometimes though Bugs Bunny used to walk by a scene and flip the scene up straight up, like, grab the bottom of the page on the TV, and he would flip it up, and all of a sudden he would be in a white abyss. It was a little bit like that. Yeah, I think, I hope y'all remember Bugs Bunny. Okay, I don't know if he's still on TV, but it was a character. This Bugs Bunny character I'm talking about was a character that could break fourth walls. It was a character that could, manipulate environments and realities. And so as I zero gravity lift this entire scene out, and it's just this white abyss. I've never taken the technique that far personally for myself. Usually, all that's not necessary. Usually, it's just okay if you can get the people to lift and you can get their voices to come out their mouths and go up into the sky. Usually, that's as far as I need to take it. But now, not only does the entire scene lift out and I'm standing in a white abyss, but also I feel the fear lift out of the body. And that too goes with along with everything else. It goes with the color, it goes with like the fear itself, the trepidation, the helplessness, all of that, the emotion itself represented as energy, represented as like a glowing ball of, rotating light comes out the body and it follows right up into the sky, right along with that entire reality. And so in that moment, it's not as if I find some courage. It's just that there's just no longer a problem to respond to. When I delete the proof of this past event, I mean, a white abyss is that doesn't exactly scream, oh, this was a dream. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. And so, because I'm no longer representing reality to myself as I formerly did moments ago, it's like, in regard to this dream, it's like I can't feel the same way about it as I did moments ago. You dig what I'm saying? So naturally, that lightness, more like it just returns, more like it felt like the fear, these ideas were just kind of like a thin layer that was just kind of resting on top of this never-ending peace, just kind of resting on top. But even once I use that zero gravity technique, all of a sudden, and take it further than I have ever before, which is to say, even the colors, everything, it just becomes just straight up a white abyss. In my memory, there's nothing for me to respond to. I just see myself standing in that white abyss. I've changed how I've represented that memory to myself. I've changed its proof of it's no longer that dream no longer serves, those images no longer serve as proof of that negative dream. And so when the proof disappears, whatever that dream meant to me also disappears. But I started getting to one more insight, which is just that how, when you go to sleep, you feel like you almost like awaken to a new world that feels so. It's funny how dreams can feel real because that would mean that in that dream, your dream self feels like they've lived an entire life. Feels like they have a history too, even though you're just dreaming it, even though you just sleep on the couch. But once you're in that dream self feels like it doesn't dawn on the dream self that hey, this whole thing is fake. Like inside of that dream self feels like they belong, like they have a history, that the events that are happening are natural. That's why a dream can feel real, however ridiculous it is. You talking about spawn in the sky? Come on, that's ridiculous. How come the thought of hey, this dream is ridiculous, or I'm even dreaming in the first place? How come that didn't hit me? How come that didn't occur to me? It's because in the thick of the panic, in the thick of, running away from this comic deity in the dream, it all feels real. It all feels like, oh yeah, of course, this is how events ought to transpire. It all feels normal. And yet it is a mere manifestation of my own thoughts and my own feelings. And were I to take responsibility, we could call that like a dream responsibility over the dream, I would have been able to transform the dream, to actually either wake myself up or to begin to dictate what actually happens next. This is a phenomenon they call lucid dreaming. I've done it before. It's very fun, but it requires waking up inside of the dream. It requires waking up inside of the dream in order to do it. So we call that dream responsibility, taking responsibility over the dream, which of course makes you ask and makes me ask right now after having gone into the lab, what if the same thing were true of the waking state, of the waking life? If we could wake up even as we believe we're awake and take like a living responsibility over living itself. We might even call that taking spiritual responsibility over reality itself. And of course that's where these ideas come from. Taking that spiritual responsibility over reality itself is the reason we're even asking the question tonight. What is your past without your proof? And as a result of that, I believe we're ready for the breakthrough board. I believe we're ready for the breakthrough board. We're ready to begin to make sense of our lab experiment tonight, of our felt experience as we return to the proof of the past, aka our own memories and stories about the past. For me, it was about taking responsibility over a dream. But in doing so, I step more into a greater responsibility over the waking state, which we just call spiritual responsibility. Because if I'm feeling that feeling of powerlessness from a dream, or if I happen to be awake and I feel the same thing, like to be able to return to this core understanding that this meaning and this feeling exists, I'm giving it the weight that's allowing it to crush my spirits or dampen my perspective. And if I can give it weight, if I can give a memory weight, if I can allow proof or evidence of something good or bad to have weight, to carry meaning, then I can also strip it of that weight. I can make it go light. And perhaps that leads us to our principle for the evening. As y'all know, I like to teach from principles. Principles allow me to, once I understand a principle, I can understand how to chart my own path forward. Once I get and understand a principle, I can chart my own path forward. So I like to teach from principles. And for tonight, I do not prepare the principles ahead of time. So I need to allow for the principle to make itself known to me. Because our question is, what is your past without your proof? And from my own experience, from my own primary experience. So here's what's coming up for me. See if this makes sense. If not, we're gonna have to augment some things. But this is what keeps kind of popping up for me. Is that the pain, be it the helplessness, the powerlessness, be it the fear, the feeling of not being good enough, whatever it is, that pain That exists inside of the proof. But the proof exists inside of the symbols. And I could even put an S there. The proof exists inside of the symbols. The symbols, of course, are how we represent reality. The reason that the zero gravity technique works is because we are lifting up all of the symbols that happen to occupy a memory. So when we talk about moving the people, it's not just moving the people, it's what that person represents to you. So if someone disrespected you, by seeing them go weightless and now they're floating up into the sky and they're still yelling, but even their words are just kind of coming out of their mouth and their voice is lifting up into the sky, like out in the way. We are changing not that person, but what that person means to you. We are changing them as a symbol in your mind. These symbols collectively represent the proof of your past, the proof, not just of your past, but also the proof of your pain. Which means that when we transform the symbols, and we're going to have to do a network wide, that's why we don't say just make one person lift up. We say make everything lift up. The fixtures on the walls, everything that could possibly mean something to you, everything that could otherwise mean heaviness, all of that gets lifted up. All of it becomes light and weightless. Every single thing that is how you represent reality across every single artifact in your mind, every single artifact in your memory, all of that gets transformed because every single artifact in your memory, from the people to the place to how you felt, none of that is true reality. It is only a representation of reality, i.e., a symbol. But that symbol also happens to be your proof of your past. And if you continue to invest in that proof, you will get unshakable pain. Continue to invest in that proof, and you will get unshakable pain. So, the principle of the evening is that the pain is in the proof, and that the proof are your symbols. The proof is your symbols. The proof comes from how you represent reality to yourself. And a memory is just a memory, it's unconscious. You naturally represent reality in a certain way to yourself. It's either a bad thing or a good thing, maybe something in between, but the reality is either a bad thing, a good thing, whatever the case is, but you're naturally representing that thing to yourself. And so when we go back in and we start using kits, we are making a process that was unconscious, and we are going to consciously transform it with a technology. You see what I'm saying? That's why we call them conscious transformation technologies, kits for short. You got it. So the point is that the pain is in the proof is in the symbols. Okay. That's our principle for the evening. That's our principle for the evening. Dang. So for me, straight up, the idea here is this. Remember Spawn I was telling you about that was looking down and trying to yoke us up? Okay, well, the dream represented a pain and represented a feeling of helplessness for me or a feeling of fear. Okay, cool. The proof was in the symbols. The symbols were the dream wife, the dream baby, my dream self, the dream landscape, the red color of the sky, the god deity Spawn. If you're just now joining the Breakthrough Live, you got to back it up about 10 minutes, okay? Because there's a whole explanation about what I'm talking about here. But the Spawn that's ripping up the sky, trying to reach down and grab us, all that is symbols, a representation of reality. And so when I change the symbols, I change the proof and dissipate the pain. That's the principle. I need you to see that. Somebody put in the chat, I understand. If you understand, if not, We'll back it up. So the pain is in the proof, and the proof is in the symbols. Okay, got it. That's our principle for the evening. Got it. Now we need to understand what is the pattern. hmm We need to know what is the pattern. When I say pattern, I like being able to recognize the pattern behind phenomena. If I can recognize the pattern behind an event, then I can interrupt that pattern. I can change that pattern and so create a new result. And so, what's the pattern? We know the principle is that the pain is in the proof is in the symbols. But what's the pattern? In other words, how do we even get into this problem in the first place? How do we even get into this trouble in the first place? What's the pattern that were we to avoid? Or better, were we to understand? We could change everything. I'm just looking for that pattern. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Here's what's running through. Like, let's saying I understand. Twin saying I can fully say I do, and I know that rare. Twin saying me too. Excellent, excellent. So here's what I'm saying is that the pattern is the unconscious assignment of meaning the unconscious assignment of meaning to events and situations. So we've got this unconscious assignment of meaning to events and situations, which is to say that you have the unconscious creation this I mean like unconscious. All right. Ugh. You have the unconscious creation of symbols. An unconscious assignment of meaning to events and situations gets codified in your mind as a symbol, even if it's just the way that somebody looked at you. It no longer is reality. Ain't nobody looking at you right now. You feel me? It's like, so, which means that even if the way that that person kind of looked at you sideways or sneered, by the time it is inside of your memory, it is now a representation of reality because it is no longer something that's actually happening to you. It's only happening to you inside of your memory. And so at that point, you are just as much a part of the happening as the it is. You dig? Of course, that's always the case. But the point that I'm making tonight is that unconscious assignment of meaning to events and situations, that's the pattern. That's the pattern that gets us into trouble. Is that when a thing happens, we get to judging things as good or bad. We get to judging things as good or bad. Maybe I should. I'm gonna let y'all see this one more time. So the unconscious assignment of meaning to events and situations means that you are unconsciously creating symbols. People can be symbols. A symbol is not just a logo. A smile can be a symbol, something that actually when you think of it, it makes you feel happy, or it makes you feel ridiculed, or it makes you feel embarrassed. You dig what I'm saying? These are symbols that now represent reality. Okay. And so you say, all right, well, that's the pattern. Is there a way to simplify that for a film? Can you simplify that for the one time? I understand the idea of a unconscious assignment of meaning to events. Could you simplify that even further, Doc? Yeah, I can. Here we go. Here we go. So here it is. It is the unconscious judgment of events and situations as good or bad. There's a binary opposition here. So we say assigning meaning to events, unconsciously assigning meaning to events. What am I really saying? I'm saying that we keep judging things as good or bad unconsciously. It's not that we're trying to, it's that when something happens, we say this shouldn't be. Or when something happens, we say about time. You dig what I'm saying? But it's unconscious. So we don't even know why walking away from a situation we feel so terrible. We haven't even seen our part in the play. We're just unconsciously playing the role out. You dig? That unconscious judgment of events and situations as good or bad. Once we create a symbol, we then layer that symbol naturally with meaning. The symbol can only be created with meaning. Once something is, once an image in your mind gets judged as good or bad, then two things exist inside the mind: the image plus the judgment, and they go together. And when they live inside of the mind, they quietly cause contamination, building up all kinds of emotional toxins like fear, like anxiety, like worry. You understand? And so we're seeing the principle being that the pain is in the proof is in the symbols, and we're seeing the pattern that we have this unconscious assignment of meaning, of things as good or bad to events and situations. And the moment that happens, we create a symbol out of natural events. And then we allow that symbol to contaminate our energy, producing fear, producing anxiety, producing worry, producing helplessness. So our job now is to find the path forward. We cover the principle, we're seeing the pattern. And what's the path forward? What's that path forward? Hmm. Okay. Okay. So our path forward, based on tonight's examination, tonight's experiential meditation, our conscious transformation technology for the night, the zero gravity technique shows us that if we can lift the symbol, we will lift the proof, which also means we'll lift the pain. If we can lift the symbol, that means we'll lift the proof, which also means we will lift the pain that is and was otherwise attached to that symbol. That's why the zero gravity technique is so powerful. And I don't know if I've ever broke it down in that way before for myself, but what we're doing is changing the unconscious symbols that exist within a memory. And we're doing it near instantly. It only takes a few moments. And as I'm learning tonight, there are levels to this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like any skill, you can get even better and better at it. Tonight was the first night that I ever made the colors of them in the memory. The colors all got stripped out because that red sky in that nightmare that I was having, it meant something. It meant danger. It meant fear. It meant something is wrong. But when the color gets drained out, when even that goes light, it flies up into the sky. It's gone. Everything, matter of fact, everything gone. It's like I no longer, I've lifted the symbol, which means I've lifted the proof and the pain. So now we return to that question, what is your past without your proof? Who's got an answer for me? Put it in the chat. What is your past without your proof? What is your past without your proof? Twin saying it's nothing, and I want to say everything all at the same time. When you say everything all at the same time, now that's interesting. Oh, now that's interesting. I'm hearing you saying everything all at the same time, twin. I'm hearing you. I feel that. To me, it's almost like when I hear you say that, it's making something like click for me. What's resonating for me throughout that, based on my experience with using the technique tonight, is it's like right, the past naturally, without the proof, it naturally kind of collapses in on itself. But when it does, but when it collapses in on itself, it's like only the raw ingredients are there. Only the raw ingredients of consciousness itself is there, pure consciousness, which is to say, only the raw ingredients of myself is there. So when the past collapses, what I'm left with is myself. And not myself in a personal sense, but myself as in the self, the supreme Atman. You dig what I'm saying? The Hindus called all of reality the self because they understood that there was no distinction between mind, self, and society, that everything was continuous, that it all went together. And without our stories, without my story about who I am and what I did and this, that, and the third, that bare naked reality, that bare naked truth, it shines imminently. That bare naked truth, it shines imminently. It's like I just have just the raw material again. Just the raw material. It's not like a there's not like a past to go back and be ashamed of or be too proud of. There's just the self. There's just this pure experiencing, this pure consciousness. Beautiful. That's at least what I'm getting from what you're talking about. That's what resonated and clicked in with me. Twin, shout out to you. Shout out to you. Felicity says the past becomes meaningless. Twin saying, is it who I am? Does it truly define me, or does the scars make it prove? Past with a passion. Yeah, right. So then I'm twin saying, yeah, past without my proof is just He's saying it's just the factual evidence, as in you can look at what just happened. Should you need to reference an event or a situation, it no longer has all of these extra burdens on it. It's just what happens. I don't want anyone thinking that we somehow lose our intellectual capacity to deal with problems. On the contrary, we actually deal with reality better because we've taken our emotions up out of it. We've taken the pain up out of it. We're not trying to get somebody back, we're not trying to send a message anymore in the next meeting because that person, oh, he needs to be shown, he needs to be taught a lesson. We're not, we can deal with the past, we can deal with what has happened based off of evidence rather than emotion. I love that twin. Excellent. The other twin, raw pureness. Felicity saying the past can't survive without the stories we tell. Right, 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 right. The past can't survive without the stories we tell. Right. It's like, but when we can recognize those stories as codified in the symbols, right now we can feel the story. Sometimes we don't always know what the story is about. You feel me? That's why we have something like a zero gravity technique. That means you don't need to know what kinds of meanings you was given to something. It don't matter. All you know is that you just feel that lightness. Which is why with James, we could run up on him on the street and and get that starting point started for him, getting that feeling started in the chest, that lightness, as he said. Because it don't matter whatever else you was thinking. It's all going to be codified inside of that memory. So we're just dealing with it right then and there. We're dealing with it right inside the place where the symbols are stored. And we know there are symbols there because if there weren't, you wouldn't be bothered. But knowing exactly how the symbol got there and what happened when you were 5 years old and this, that, and the third, we don't need to do all that. We go straight to the symbol because once we move through the exercise, we recognize what else? We don't even have to wait for something to be an issue. We don't have to wait for something to become a core trauma. The moment we start feeling any kind of way, we turn our attention onto the feeling, onto the emotion, and onto the memory. Or in some cases, it can even be the imagined future. But we're turning our attention back onto our model of the past. And we are dealing with it right now. We deal with it in the here and now. Excellent. Twin saying, yes, yes, yes. Mrs. Felicity, excellent. Yes, yes, yes. This past cannot survive without the stories we tell. Yes, right, right. It's just that sometimes when we go hunting for a story, which is what, you know, there's a lot of modalities, healing modalities that will have you kind of retrace what the stories were and that sort of thing. That's interesting. I think sometimes we can, spend a lot of time trying to piece together a story when really I just want to deal with the symbol directly because the story is going to be codified in the symbol. You could even say that the point of stories is to help you create new symbols that allow you to navigate life in a different way. That is like the point of a story at its highest level is to help you understand things in a different way so that you move differently. I've told you that in every society, if you want to, in order for people to be either trained or controlled, and there's three institutions: schools, religions, and the media, right? These are the three institutions that are really big into storytelling. for a reason. If you can help somebody create a story, what you're really doing is helping them create a symbol. That symbol will have motivating action. Without them knowing, that symbol, be it the way that somebody blinks at you, be it the way that somebody smiles at you, be it whatever that symbol is, the meaning that has been assigned to that symbol will direct and dictate behavior because it'll always conjure up the feelings that are necessary in order for you to move in a direction that perhaps you did not choose for yourself. And so, what we want to do is take responsibility over that, over all of the symbols that are inside of our mind. And the way that we do that is by paying attention to feeling. We understand that feeling is senior to thought. I need to say that again. Feeling is senior to thought. One more. Feeling is senior to thought. Inside the feeling, I'll find the evidence of the symbols. And if I can deal with those symbols directly, I change the symbol, I change the proof, which means I change the pain. That's why it don't take years. It just takes one real breakthrough.